To be or not to be? Will the government confiscate your gold? Welcome to UK Front Row Seat. This is episode 7. We'll get straight into it. So look, this is a very pertinent and relevant topic at this current time. As we begin to see the economic collapse happen around us, the economy having come to a deep freeze under the bubble-popping coronavirus lockdown, and all of the disastrous aspects and impacts that it has associated with it, especially regarding unemployment. What will happen to those people who have planned ahead and swapped their inflating fiat currency for hard real money, being gold and silver? Will they be able to keep it in the future, or will it be confiscated by the government in the interests of the nation, or some other excuse that they come up with if it happens? So look, from some online research I've done, mainly looking at gold and silver sites like Goldcore and Gold Silver. I've put the links in the description of this video. All the quotes and the information comes from there, plus a couple of my own opinions dabbled in. So basically, relatively speaking, the citizenry doesn't own much gold in the form of coins, rounds, bullion, etc. So it would likely be quite problematic and questionable for the government to send police squads door to door to confiscate small amounts of bullion. It would just be operationally difficult. That's what people think. Furthermore, given the pound is not backed by gold today as it was previously back in the day, the motivation to confiscate gold as it existed prior doesn't really exist today. It's a lot weaker because it's not gold backed. It's not a gold backed currency. However, this has not stopped modern governments without a gold standard from confiscating gold, ostensibly as a form of currency control to slow down market-driven devaluation, i.e. inflation of the currency. So for example, here's a good example. When Great Britain introduced the gold ban in 1966, there was no gold standard. So there is historical precedence that gold being confiscated in the UK without it being part of the monetary system, i.e. gold not backing the currency. And look, today the UK is still an indebted nation, and in the event of an economic collapse, the likes of which we're now facing, large pools of gold may be confiscated. So we're talking about pool accounts, digital gold bullion vaulting providers and depositories, things like that. So for example, as another example, the GLD, the stock ticker GLD, that may be, the gold backing that may be confiscated. Now for a little history. So ever since the pound went off the gold standard in 1931, it has been falling. I've explained that previously, I've shown the charts. Falling against gold, real money that is. As the length of the decline did not abate, many investors stored gold overseas to essentially protect their standards of living. So they wanted to get out of the pound and they wanted to get in gold, pretty much what I'm suggesting to do right at this point in time. To stem this decline, however, in 1966 the government banned private citizens from owning more than 4 precious metal coins and blocked imports of gold to prevent the currency from being exported. So it wasn't necessarily a gold confiscation as much as it was a ban. However, if you had more than 4 coins of gold, you had to get rid of them and basically give them to the government. The thing is, at that point in time, collectors could own more than this imposed limit. However, collectors were made to apply for a license, which was reviewed by the Bank of England to determine whether the collector was legit or not. So, if any collector wasn't deemed to be legitimate by the Bank of England, they were made to hand over their surplus bullion. So you can understand that if you're going to be, if this license was reviewed by the BOE, there's a conflict of interest there, obviously, there's an incentive basically for the Bank of England at that point in time to not deem you a collector. And I'm sure that happened. So basically, in essence, political leaders can and will do whatever they deem necessary at the time, in any way they see fit, for as long as they think it's needed. As government funds run dry, politicians don't hesitate, and in the past didn't hesitate, to grab the net worth of private individuals, private citizens, even portraying it as patriotic. So you can see, historically, there's been an issue in terms of gold confiscations. Okay, so when you look at all the other gold confiscations that have happened throughout history, so for example in Germany and in the United States under Roosevelt, what can we surmise? What are the patterns here? So number one, it arose out of economic crisis. The reason why I'm saying this is because we're in economic crisis right now, so it's pertinent. Each government in the past had abused its finances so badly that it eventually nationalised privately held gold from citizens. This is especially true under an economic and monetary crisis, as shown by the lessons of history. I've said that again just to emphasise the fact that it happens in crisis, and that's what we're going through now. Repetition, learn. It lasted for a long time. So of all the confiscations in the Western world, at least anyway, in advanced economies, the shortest was 13 years. So gold was confiscated for 13 years. That's a long time. Okay, what was the last point? So number 3. The governments completely forbid any type of hoarding of bullion. Only true collectors were exempt, and only those pieces that were truly classified as rare. And you had to prove it. Interestingly, gold jewellery was not part of the confiscation, so that's important, given that I'm going to be talking about how you can keep gold safe from government hands in a minute. Actually, let's talk about that now. And finish up actually. So what are the options? The 2 best options based on this research are basically, number 1, gold bullion grade jewellery. As I've just mentioned, it is less prone to confiscation throughout history because it's been classified as jewellery, not bullion. So governments are a bit more lenient. I don't think they'd be able to get away with stealing jewellery unless you're under some sort of dictatorship. Which I know in the past has happened. If you're under a dictatorship, they'll just take what they want. Jewellery, art, property, whatever. Anything goes, tough luck. Fortunately, in the Western world, at least in the UK, at the moment, at least, we're not under a dictatorship. So really the only things that we need to be worried about is our bullion. So there's other companies out there that do investment grade bullion in the form of jewellery. So you can look that up if you want to go down that route. Also saying that it would be very transportable as well, so you could wear the jewellery and transport it to other countries on flights, if there are flights anywhere these days given the lockdown, as opposed to gold coins and small bullion bars, which would raise some suspicion, I would think. Even so that you've got a certain allowance that you can bring over. I think it's like not more than $10,000 worth or pounds worth or whatever it is, depending on the country. Okay, so number 2, how else can you keep your bullion? So bullion held outside of the banking system in political jurisdictions that historically represent and respect the rights of the private individual. So companies like Singapore, Switzerland, previously Hong Kong. I don't know what Hong Kong is like now. You have to do your research. And saying that, actually, Singapore and Switzerland, well, who's to say that these areas, these places are going to remain respectful to your individual freedoms and rights? Who knows what may happen? So it's a very difficult topic to talk about. At least I just wanted to give you an idea of what's happened in the past, and maybe from the past we can extrapolate to see what may happen in the future. As I've been saying previously on the other episodes, always have at least some bullion yourself, literally with you, because when the S hits the fan, you're going to need it. And if it's in some vault somewhere, even if it's safe and it's miles away, you're not going to be able to access it when you need it. And look, before we go, I just wanted to give you a UK unemployment update. Pretty scary figures is really the only way I can put it. The unemployment rate has increased to at least 7.5% of the workforce. That's 2.5 million people, and that's pretty drastic. So we're now mirroring what's happening in the States and other countries. The Resolution Foundation, which is basically a think tank, has said the government's plan to cover 80% of the salary of furloughed workers could cost up to £40 billion, and that's just in 3 months. That's an insane amount of money. Again, as you know, the government and the central bank's just going to print this money into existence. So Chancellor Rishi Sunak, he said, if the furloughed workers scheme, that is, ends up being significantly used, I will view that as a success if it means that we can get through this and then can bounce back quickly. Well, listen, we know we're not going to bounce back quickly. This is a serious structural issue that we've got here now. The country's been shut down. There's going to be no V-shaped recovery. We know this. All the central bank can do is print loads of money, create more debt. So, yes, he'll see it as a success, but it won't be, because it won't bounce quickly and we won't be able to get through this unscathed. So it's just going to create more debt. Yes, it's going to keep people going for a little bit longer, but ultimately it's not going to work, and it's probably going to make things, in the longer term at least, more horrific, unfortunately. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. Take care. I hope everything's okay out there for you given the lockdown. Stay safe. Please comment. Please give the thumbs up. Share the videos. Look at the other videos in this series, and if you've got any questions, more than happy to answer them.